What's up, everybody? Welcome to Chatting with Chapman. I'm your host, Andre Chapman Jr., also known as Dre Made It Happen. And I have the pleasure of chatting with the 2022 World Indoor Championship silver medalist in the 400 meters, 2022 World Championship bronze medalist in the 400 meter hurdles, the 2023 World Championship qualifier in the 400 meter hurdlers, in the 400 meter hurdles, 2023 World Championship gold medalist in the 4x4, 2024 World Championship indoor silver medalist in the 4x4, 2024 Paris Olympic qualifier in the 400 meter hurdles. He heavily believes Nickelback is underrated, and his parents call him T-Rev, but you can call him Trevor. What's the deal, Trevor? Thank you for being here with us today.
Thank you for having me, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, of course. Just a little background. I started this podcast because I wanted to create a place where athletes, coaches, and parents, especially high school athletes, can come and learn directly from professional and collegiate athletes on the mental side of the sport. I wanted to demystify the challenges that you all face so they understand the mental is something that you're always continuously working on, right? And create a place where they can come, watch, and listen to get knowledge and guidance as, you know, they're going through their own challenges in their everyday life in sport. So thank you, man. This is going to be a great conversation.
Yeah, man, I can't wait.
Yeah. So my first question is, what mental skills have been crucial for you in your progression from high school to college and then the Olympic level?
I think the big thing for me is I've always been a competitor and I've always had a chip on my shoulder. So whether I was the top person on my team in high school or when I got to college, you kind of have to readjust, right? You get to college level, you're not top dog anymore. But I still showed up every day ready to compete, ready to work hard, try to prove myself. And then Division II level, win a handful of national championships, All-Americans turn pro. And it's the same thing. You turn pro, you're not winning as often as you used to. So then it's just more about going out, competing, keeping that chip on your shoulder and going to prove yourself. So then it's less about winning, but it's more so about just being the best that you can be. And that's something I feel like I've always done a good job with.
Yeah. How was that transition from, you know, high school to college and then to the pros where the winning was not happening as frequently?
Pros was significantly harder going from college to pros than high school to college. High school to college wasn't that bad because I kind of knew going high school to college that there was going to be a little bit of an adjustment. It was going to take some time. But college to pros, my first couple months pro was 2022 when I made the world team and got bronze in Eugene. So in my head, I was like, all right, like I got third race in pros. Like this is how it's going to be. Like we're going to win a bunch of races, get second, third, whatever. And you get to the pro level and that's not the case. So my rookie year was rough. I showed some races I got sixth in a couple, seventh, and that can be really hard. It can be really demoralizing, especially coming from where I came from at the Division II level where you're used to being so dominant.
Yeah, absolutely. Going off of that, right, where you're used to being dominant and then you're showing up to races and you're not seeing the results that you want. How do you overcome those type of situations, right? Because I could guess that sometimes they might put you in a slump. They might have you thinking like, am I doing this? Why am I doing this? Should I continue running? How do you overcome that to continue, you know, pushing forward?
Yeah, honestly, you just like you said right there at the end, you just got to keep pushing forward. You just got to understand that every day is not your best day. And you have to understand at the pro level, everybody's great. You can have the best race of your life depending on who you are and still get like second or third or fourth. And that's not something I've been used to. That's something that a lot of people aren't used to. And it's just kind of instead of looking at it from when like either you win or you fail, shifting out of that mindset and shifting towards like executing the race plan, giving the full effort you can. So when you walk off the track, whether you won or whether you got seventh or eighth, if you know you gave your full effort and did everything you could to execute, then that's all you can do. Like that's all you had in your body that day. That was your best effort for the day. And sometimes that's not enough. And then you just have to realize that that's okay.
Yeah. So it sounds like shifting that perspective and that expectation from I have to win, I have to run this time to, okay, let me just go out there and execute the race and focus on making sure I hit my race strategy.
Yep, exactly.
Yeah. Can you share a time when you were mentally in a slump and how you got out of that.
Yeah, I laugh because that was this year. Um, a month before the Olympic trials, I ran the slowest race of my pro career. Nothing felt right. Nothing felt like it was coming naturally. Everything was just bad to the point where like I called my wife because I was in Oregon at the time and I was like, what am I doing? Like, this is terrible. Like, maybe this isn't God's plan for me. Maybe I just need, like, maybe this is it. Like, maybe this is a sign that, like, I need to, like, stop doing that. And something that my wife's always been great about is being supportive. And I have a great support team around me. So I was in a slump. I've always seen a sports psychologist since 2021. But then once that happened a month before the trials, I really amped up seeing her because normally it was just like a by appointment basis. Once I hit that slump, I told her, I said, I want to meet with you once a week through the Olympic trials. I told my therapist, I was like, I want to meet with you once a week. Like, I want to be really consistent about this because I know on my worst day, I'm physically ready no matter what, but I need to make sure I'm mentally ready and I'm confident and I'm feeling good. So just being very deliberate, meeting with the both of them, coming together on like a strategy, understanding that the Olympic trials for track and field, it's 10 days. That's a very long time. I wasn't until the last 4 days. So I told her, I said, I'm not going to watch any of the Olympic trials. I'm not going to watch it on TV. I'm not going to go to the stadium. Like, I'll check live results to check on like my friends that are in the sport, see how they're doing. But I was like, I can't watch anything because that emotional roller coaster for me of seeing people make the team, miss the team. Like, that's a roller coaster. Like, I don't want to deal with that. I can't. Like, I need to not. So I would go from my hotel room to the track, back to the hotel room, watching like anything I could find on TV or on Netflix, and just really honing in on the race plan and the strategies that I worked out with my sports psych to make sure that when I stepped to the line each round, I felt confident. I felt like I was ready to go.
Wow, one of the things that I love that you just said is even on my worst day, I knew that I was physically ready. And it was just about the mental side of it, right? I've never heard that before, and that I love the confidence and the faith and the trust that is in that statement in the work that you've put in. And now it's just about handling the mental side and how important that is. How did you learn that watching the meet would essentially drain you or have an impact to where you had to like no longer watch the meet or manage those emotions?
Honestly, I just kind of took a guess just because it wasn't I even wanted to risk because down here in Florida, I'm a part of a large training group. So we have a lot of people. We had a lot of people out there. So people I'm friends with and interact with daily. Speaking statistically, not everyone in the group was going to make the team. And we knew that going in. And it's something I didn't want to have to deal with because I felt like if I looked at live results and I saw the names and the numbers, I could still have some separation from it. But if I actually watched it live, heard the commentators, heard the crowd, saw the facial expressions, I knew it was just going to get my heart rate up. It would get me kind of stressed out. And then I also deleted social media for the first time in my entire life. The day one of the Olympic trials, I deleted all my social media for 10 days. And because I was like, I can't see anything. I don't want to deal with it. I did keep TikTok because there's not much track stuff on my TikTok. It's just like funny videos. So I'm like, okay, cool. I can pass time with that. But I wanted to be as disconnected from the Olympic trials as I possibly could until it was time for me to race.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Wow. Wow. That kind of ties into my next question about how do you mentally prepare for high intense moments or intense competitions? And it sounds like getting disconnected and kind of retreating might be one of your strategies.
Yeah, retreating in terms of when I'm not at the track, not at practice, I want to disconnect, I want to retreat because I think something a lot of high level athletes have, we have this ability to flip a switch, right? And be really intense, locked in, focused, ready to roll. But for me, and I feel like most other high level athletes, it's really hard to turn that switch off and to kind of like unwind and relax. So it's something I was like, if I can avoid flipping that switch incidentally, whether it's seeing my teammate run a PB at the Olympic trials, then I get fired up,
Mm.
I'm pumped for him. Well, that switch just got flipped. And now it might take me like an hour, 2 hours to kind of come back down and de-stress. So when I'm not competing, I want to avoid that as much as I can. Big fan of visualization, visualizing the race plans, spend like 10 minutes a day doing it. I don't go over 15 minutes because that can kind of be a little draining because visualizing super stressful competitions can still be stressful. When I was in college, I heard about this study that said they took a bunch of basketball players, took them to the free throw line. Half the group shot one free throw. The other half of the group imagined shooting and making a free throw. And the group that imagined making the free throw shot better on the second one. And they found that essentially the human brain can't tell the difference between a memory and something you made up. So then if I just go through the race plan 2 to 3 times in the days leading up to it, by the time I step to the line, you're always going to have nerves. You're always going to feel nervous. But if I visualize enough, I'll step to the line and my body will be like, oh, we've been here before. Like we've ran before. We're good to go. Even if you haven't, it's kind of tricking your body and tricking your mind into feeling more comfortable. That was a big one for the Olympic trials. The Olympic trials, the first, I'd never done this before, but I heard about it watching the college football national championship. And JJ McCarthy, they talked about his sports psychologist, and he said in an effort to like rewire his brain, he would brush his teeth with his left hand because he was right-handed and just say like words of affirmation, phrases of affirmation. And I did that. Every time I went to the bathroom to brush my teeth for 10 days, I would just tell myself while I'm brushing my teeth with my left hand, I'm going to be an Olympian. I'm going to execute the race plan. I'm going to leave it all on the track, just things of that nature. And after 10 days, I got pretty good at brushing my teeth with my left hand. And I think it worked. Like I truly believe I had more sense of confidence because of the visualization mixed with the training I had put in, so I knew I was physically ready. And then you mix in sort of rewiring your brain and just almost, I don't want to say tricking yourself because you're not tricking yourself. It's just instilling more belief subconsciously.
Yeah, that was going to be the question I was going to follow up with. I think it's easy to understand visualization, but I was curious to learn more about how the affirmations played a part, you think, into the Olympic trials for you.
Yeah, I think it was really just a subconscious thing because it's not like when I was warming up, I felt more confident. I was so nervous warming up that final round. Like in between my strides, I'm like crouching down, catching my breath, and I just remember thinking like, I'm 26 years old. If I don't make this Olympic team, I don't have another chance until I'm 30. Like this is very like this is it. And I felt more nervous in that situation, but I also think because of those words of affirmation with the left hand sort of rewiring your brain, subconsciously when I got to the points where I wasn't thinking, like walking onto the track, in those moments where it's like fight or flight, I think the words of affirmation really helped my brain and my body to just feel more confident. And it's not something that I directly felt better with, but I think it's something that did work in an underlying sense.
Yeah, and it sounds as well too with brushing your teeth with your left hand sounds like it'll bring you back to that present moment, right? Because I can imagine a lot of us when we brush our teeth, we zone out, we're thinking about other stuff. But when you're doing it with a completely different hand, you're having to stay focused and present on what's happening. And so mixing that with the affirmations is it probably, really grounds you in the moment. And like you said, just takes an everyday task and makes it more like, okay, this is okay. Let's brush the right side. Let's brush the left side. Right. So I think that's really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. It was incredibly helpful. It was just something I remembered hearing, watching the college football championship and thinking like, maybe this will work. Like it's the Olympic trials. I'm willing to try any like mental trick I can think of, or that seems like it might work, like to give me any sort of mental edge. Yeah. I don't see why not.
Yeah. Shout out JJ McCarthy.
Yeah. JJ.
um, How do you? I know you mentioned you're married. So how do you balance the demands of sport with other aspects of your life?
It can be difficult. Like the whole reason my wife and I moved to Florida is because of track and field, because I wanted to train down here. And her and I both know if I wasn't running track, we'd still live up in Ohio. So it's something we had to really commit to. And it's something that she's been great about. Like she understands that most of the time I'm going to be at practice or at weights. When I come home, I might be a little tired certain days. So I might not be as like energetic or whatever. But she also does a great job of communicating with me in terms of like, if she's like, hey, like I know you're tired, but I need you to do the dishes or take out the trash or something, like walk the dog. She does a good job of communicating so that she doesn't let a problem like fester. So she does a great job accommodating me in that way. And then once I got done with school, track and field is like the main thing I do. So I'm training like 4 or 5 hours a day, probably in total between weights and practice. And I get home and I take care of whatever I got to take care of, whether that is taking out the trash, walking the dog, doing whatever. And it's just holding a schedule similar to like I tell high school athletes going to college, I'm like, just hold yourself to a schedule. Like if I get home from practice and I sit down on the couch, I know it's going to be really hard for me to then get up off the couch to like do one of the tasks I got to do. So it's just staying committed, knowing myself, knowing that if I do this, it might put me off from what I need to be doing.
Yeah, having a great support system and following a schedule. I have a note in my house that says do the hard thing, because like you said, if you come home and you sit down on the couch after a long day, it's going to be 10 times harder to get up as opposed to you come home, automatically do what it is that you have to do and then relax, right? I think Kobe Bryant
Yeah.
had a saying that said relax at the end or rest when you're finished, and so that's what you said kind of reminds me of that.
Yeah, 100%. It's just knowing yourself because there are some people that if they get home from work, they can sit on the couch and be like, I'll give myself 10 minutes, I can get up. Sometimes I can do that, sometimes I can't. So I know most of the time I just need to avoid that altogether.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. You touched on this a little bit earlier when we were talking about the Olympics and kind of stepping back from social media. But how do you handle the external pressures and expectations from others, maybe even yourself, to not impact your performance?
External pressures have never really been an issue for me. For me, my issue's been internal. So it's just the expectations I have for myself is so high that it can get to the point where it is detrimental. Where a lot of times my rookie year, I remember running at the Paris Diamond League in 2023, and I got third, ran like my second fast race of the season. When my coach called me, the first thing I told him was, I need to do like this, and this better. And he told me, he's like, hey, relax. Like you ran a really good race. We know what we can work on. Like enjoy yourself because like you're out there, you're running a pro meet, you're putting some money in your pocket, and then you get to come home. Like and sort of being able to take a step back and look at it from a more I always mix up subjective and objective, a more like objective point of like looking at the facts of the situation instead of just being like, I didn't win, like I'm really mad I should have won. And that can be really hard on me sometimes. So it's something that I need to like step back and I always tell myself three things that went well, no matter what happened in the race. Find three things that went well. And then if you can do that, it always helps me kind of like soften the blow a little bit in terms of like not being as hard on myself or as down.
Yeah. I like that your coach brought it back to enjoy yourself. You're in Paris, you just got some money in your pocket. Besides the three positive things, how do you remember to enjoy yourself at these meets and not be so hard on yourself?
It's kind of like we talked about earlier, it's just being present in the moment, just being like, okay, I'm really mad. I just got like fifth or fourth in a race. But then taking a moment to step back and be like, I'm a professional athlete. I'm competing in Europe. If you'd have told me even like my first 2 years of college that I'd be a professional athlete, I'd be like, okay, whatever. Like, did half of Team USA just leave? Like, what do you mean? But so it's just taking a step back and looking at yourself and looking at the situation and then just finding some gratitude in it. Even if the situation is not great, most of the time, regardless of what it is, you can find something to be grateful about.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Looking back, if you could give your high school self a piece of advice for the mental side of your sport, what would that be?
Probably just have fun with it because it can be really stressful if you put a lot of expectations on yourself, as I now know. Um, and yeah, just enjoy it. It's a sport. You're racing, you're running around, you're trying to beat people. Like that's great. It's a great life. It's a great sport. It's a great job to have. So just enjoy and just keep moving forward. Win, lose, or draw, injury, whatever. Just keep moving forward.
That's beautiful. That's beautiful. I always tell my kids to have fun. So I resonate with that a lot.
Yeah,
So I didn't tell you about this part, but I do this thing at the end called rapid fire questions where you have 30
I
seconds
love.
to answer 5 questions. And I start the clock after I ask the first question. You ready?
Are these gonna be like one word answers?
Maybe one, maybe a sentence. It depends. Yeah, but
Okay.
it's not too challenging.
Okay. Cool.
All right. What's your go-to pregame hype song?
Zombie.
What's your favorite cheat meal?
Um, ice cream cake.
What's your favorite off-day hobby?
Gaming.
If you could relive one moment from your career, what would it be?
Bronze medal in Eugene Worlds.
What is the best advice you've been given?
Mm. Good, better, best. Never rest until your good becomes better and better becomes best.
Boom. I like it. I like it. I like it. Yo, thank you, Trevor. I really appreciate this. Great episode. I hope people watching understand all the knowledge that was provided today and, put it to use.
Yeah, thank you for having me. I love doing stuff like this, especially from the mental aspect of the sport, which is starting to grow, but you can still tell there's a lot of like misconceptions about it, or younger athletes don't really know where to start or what like techniques they can use. So I'm always happy to help out.
Absolutely. Thank you, man. Thank you. Thank you.
Yep, thank you.